This is a topic that I'm passionate about because it took me so much to learn how to do perspective. So a lot of my students come in and they have different books that they are looking at that's just focusing on perspective. And this is one of them. I wanted to show it to you. It's called An Introduction to Perspective, and it's by Ray Smith. It's in association with the Royal Academy of the Arts. So I've had this book for a long time. There are some things that I find useful about it, but overall I'm going to tell you that it's a little bit complex. So let's take a look down and I'll show you a couple of examples. Okay, so like I said, I've had this book for a really long time, and I'm going to show you one example of something that's really helpful. It does take 2 pages to explain what the picture plane is, and when you're thinking about perspective, it's kind of helpful to think about a section of air that's kind of a cross section between yourself and the object that represents what you're going to be able to include on your drawing paper. So it goes into a lot of detail explaining that. That's the picture plane. But I wanted to show you a couple of examples of where this book really falls short. So this is one example. It has one tiny little paragraph and 2 pictures that explain to you what sighting is. And this is about measuring your composition, it says. But this is something that I go into, I think, 4 or 5 different videos for you guys to explain, because it's a really complex process and they reduce it down to 2 photos and 1 little paragraph here. So it's the basic shortcoming of this book is that it takes really, really complicated subjects and then reduces it down into really tiny pieces. So here's another example. In this section, it's called 3-point painting. So it's talking about 3-point perspective, and it gives you 2 full pages on how to do, actually 4 pages, on how to do this painting. But the whole book is about perspective, and I will tell you that basically it reduces the perspective down to this one little picture and paragraph that says, making a perspective drawing of the image with a ruler and pencil creates a clear structure and a clean image on which to build up the acrylic washes. It doesn't tell you anything else about the perspective. This book is about perspective, so really I think it should take the 4 pages to explain to you how do you apply the perspective that you just learned in the last few pages to an actual drawing. And so that to me is what this is missing. It goes into a lot about what types of paint it uses and how to do faint washes and work tonally and all this stuff, but it doesn't necessarily go into enough detail about the perspective parts of the drawing. And without getting the drawing accurate, the paint doesn't really matter, because if your perspective isn't right, it doesn't really matter if your paint is the right value or color. So that is my concern about this book. I think that it gives you a lot of information about perspective, but it kind of expects that you already understand it in the way that it uses the language. So it's a little bit overcomplicating. And I know a lot about perspective, and when I'm reading through some of these sections that are talking about 1-point and 2-point and 3-point, it just doesn't quite translate to me. So I think that there's something valuable about learning such a complex subject from a human being or from videos where there's demonstration, so that you can see a little bit more about where those different vocab words are being used and how they're being applied. So I think that that's a really important point, is that you have to learn a more complex subject like this from people, not a book.